So for my speech, I chose Richard Ramirez, and my visual aid was a knife. Have you ever felt the presence of another human at night? The Night Stalker, also known as Richard Ramirez, was known for watching his victims in the dark. According to this gruesome serial killer's documentary on Netflix, he had killed about 13 people, along with 24 sexual assault charges and 14 burglaries. His friends and detectives working his case described Richard Labor Ramirez as a cocaine addict and a Satanist. The specific killer felt no remorse for any of his actions, which were visually disturbing to all the victims' families in court. He was finally sentenced to 19 life sentences and ruled to die by the gas chamber, but even offered to kill himself instead of any of those repercussions. For most serial killers, most of them experienced early life trauma that affected them throughout their whole life. For Ramirez, he had a broken home and had multiple head injuries by the age of 5 due to his dad. His parents weren't the only problem though. His older cousin Miguel, that recently returned home from the Vietnam War, got Richard smoking marijuana by the age of 13, and he later on saw Miguel kill his wife. During his time in Vietnam, Miguel had raped, tortured, and even dismembered several Vietnamese women, and sickeningly had the photographic evidence to prove it. He often showed little Richie photos of the horrors he inflicted upon women, and this is where Ramirez started to go down a bad path. Richard started to feel no remorse and started to take his anger out on other people. According to biography editors, after dropping out of school in the 9th grade, Ramirez was arrested for the first time in 1977 for marijuana possession. He soon moved to California, progressing to his cocaine addiction and burglary addiction, and cultivating an interest in Satanism. He was arrested twice in Los Angeles for auto theft in 1981 and again in 1984, then noticeably began to neglect his personal hygiene. The same year of his second arrest, he reportedly killed his first victim on March 17, 1984. She was a 79-year-old woman, and not only was she murdered, he sexually assaulted her and stole all of her expensive possessions. And just 10 days later, on March 27th, Ramirez murdered again 64-year-old Vincent Zaharas and Zaharas' 44-year-old wife, Maxine. Using a attack style that would become a popular pattern for Richard, the husband was shot first, and then the wife was brutally assaulted and stabbed to death. In this case, he actually gouged out her eyes. Most killers want to know what the cops know. He was a very sneaky link in his first early stages, but when he started to figure out the news and all the information, he had come to the realization that he was going to get caught sooner than later. Nobody was able to identify the man, and his first nickname on the news was actually the Walk-In Killer, not the Night Stalker. According to another biography editor, Ramirez's actions on his final night of terror, on August 24th, 1985, it soon led to his capture. First, he was spotted outside a Mission Vieja home, where he unwittingly left a footprint before the witnesses took a note of his car and his license plate. Later, after Ramirez raped another woman at her home and shot her fiancé. The victim provided a detailed description of her assailant, who forced her to swear for love for Satan. In Season 1, Episode 3, Lock Your Doors, his exact words were, "Don't swear to God. Swear to Satan." On August 31st, 1985, the serial killer Richard Ramirez walked into a convenience store in Los Angeles. At first, he seemed like an ordinary shopper until he noticed his face on the cover of the LA Times. He decided to run for his life. This gave the opportunity for plenty of citizens to memorize his physical features and point him out to the authorities as he dashed out of the store. It also gave Ramirez a little chance of a getaway, but of course, he still tried to escape. This high-pursuit chase involved 7 police cars and a helicopter. They tracked down Ramirez throughout the city, but an angry mob of bystanders caught up to him first. Enraged by all of his vicious crimes, they began to beat him relentlessly, and one of the men actually used a metal pipe. By the time the police arrived, Ramirez was practically thanking them for arresting him at that point in time. Now it's time to put these monsters behind bars. Ramirez waited in jail as his trial was continuously pushed off. The delay marked by a series of motions and bickering between the prosecutors and the defense attorney. Some of the charges against Ramirez were actually dropped in order to expedite what was becoming a long journey of justice. The trial itself commenced the following January of 1989. During this time, Ramirez attracted a cult-like following of supporters. Many of them were Black Klan Satan worshippers. Ramirez himself often wore along with black shades for his courtroom appearances. Yet another delay occurred when one juror was found murdered on August 14, 1989. But rumors that Ramirez had orchestrated her death proved unfounded. On September 20th, 1989, the jury finally returned a unanimously guilty of 43 charges, including 13 counts of murder, 5 counts of attempt to murder, 11 sexual assault charges, and 14 burglary charges. 2 weeks later, the same jury recommended the death sentence on 19 counts. Leaving the courtroom, Ramirez responded, "Hey, big deal. Death always comes with the territory. I'll see you in Disneyland. I have no clue what that means, but the convicted murderer was formally sentenced to death in the gas chamber on November 7, 1989, and was sent to San Quentin Prison in California to spend the remainder of his life. Later on in prison, he actually married 41-year-old Doreen Luoy in 1996, and that was the end of Richard Ramirez.